Hey guys, welcome to our 9th virtual pre-recorded lesson. We're going to start this lesson the way we start all of them, which is with a couple of check-in questions. The first question that I would like to begin with is, if you could travel to any place in the world right now, near or extremely far, what place would you choose and why? So for example, I think I would travel to Dakar, Senegal, which is this really cool city in West Africa, because I studied abroad there and it's extraordinarily vibrant and the people are very warm and the food is delicious and there's just incredible culture. And I feel like I could really use some warmth and some vibrancy in my life right now, especially given the dark December skies. So that would be my answer to that check-in question. I'd now love to hear your response. So you can either post in the comments below where I post this video, or you can type them out in a separate Google Doc or on a little video message that you send to me after you work through this lesson. My second check-in question is, what is your idea of the perfect day? What would be your idea of the perfect day? This could be your perfect day, like as where you are now in your life and things you're able to do, or it could be the perfect day in terms of what you dream for your life in the future. But just think of what your perfect day would be. And then my question is, like, list it out. How would you start the day? What would you eat for breakfast? Who would you see? What would you do? Where would you go? What would you want to make sure you had done before the clock struck midnight at the end of your perfect day? Again, I would love to hear some of your thoughts about what your perfect day would look like. Feel free to share that. Again, comments below this video, in a separate Google Doc that you send to me, or you guessed it, in a little separate video message that you can also send to me privately, of course, on the Google Classroom. Okay, let's get to our last part of the check-in, which, as you remember, if you've been with us for our other pre-recorded videos or in our live drama club sessions, is called Ritual In. I'm going to add a new layer, which is how I usually do it in person, but I haven't done it up to this point, which is I'm going to light a candle. So the way Ritual In works is, usually if we're in a room, we all stand in a circle and one at a time we say our name, and then in just one word, something that's distracting us, keeping us from being present or weighing down on our shoulders. So we say our name and we say that thing in one word, and then after everybody has gone, we count down 3, 2, 1, and we blow out the candle, and we sort of symbolically blow all those distractions and worries and stresses away. So take a sec, think of what your word would be, and then once you've got that word, you can again type it in the chat below, or you can just say it out loud wherever you are in your space. And I'll say my word is Mr. Walker. Responsibilities. On the count of 3, let's blow those worries away. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's jump into our lesson. The first activity that I want to try is a game that I always play in person in my drama classes, and it's called Steal the Bacon. The way Steal the Bacon works is 2 people stand on completely opposite ends of the room, as far apart from each other as they possibly can be in the room. In the middle of the room, we place some kind of object. Could be like a stuffed animal or just a pencil, something. It is the goal of both players to try to get to the middle of the room and grab the bacon without being tagged by the other person. So again, your objective, the objective of both players, is to get to the middle of the room, grab the bacon, whatever the bacon object may be, and get back to your starting side of the room without being tagged by the other player. So, some tips and tricks for playing this game: if both of you just rush right away and try to grab the bacon, it's very likely that the other person will tag you. So this game is all about sort of taking it slow and being strategic and finding clever ways to sort of trick the other player up so that you can grab the bacon object and get back to the side, your side, before they tag you. So that's my advice for playing this. Be strategic, be slow. It's almost like a kind of dance between 2 lions in the jungle, is often what it looks like when we play it in the room. So my advice for you is to just Play this with someone you live with. Play it with your cousin, one of your older or younger siblings. Play it with a parent, an aunt or uncle, or even a grandparent if they're down. If you want to play the virtual version of the game with either a friend or another family member over Zoom or Google Meet or FaceTime, here's how I adapt the game. Again, 2 players. Both players start at some kind of starting location that is roughly equal distance from their respective devices. So if I'm standing at the door, which is about 5 feet away from my computer, the person I'm playing with would also have to pick a starting location that's like roughly 5 feet away from their device. The goal of each player is to then get to the computer, click unmute, and say, "I stole the bacon," before the other player can get back and touch their starting location. So if I was playing and I got towards my computer, I clicked unmute and I started to say, "I stole the bacon," but the person I was playing against got back and touched their starting position before I was able to finish saying I stole the bacon, I would lose and they would win. So again, you have to try to say, "I stole the bacon," unmute and say, "I stole the bacon," before the person you're playing against touches their starting location. Again, slow and easy and strategic wins this game. If you both just rush to try to say it, I guarantee you the person you're playing with will touch their starting location before you're able to finish saying it. So get strategic. Have fun with this. If you feel comfortable with it, take a recording of you playing this with whomever you play it with on Zoom or Google Meet or FaceTime and send it to me on Google Classroom. I would love to see how it goes and what kind of strategies you use. Speaking of strategies, after you try this game, either in person with people who live in your household or with friends or family members over the internet, my question would be, what are some of the strategies you used in this game that worked? What were some of the strategies that made you successful in stealing the bacon, whether it be the actual bacon or the virtual bacon version? What were some of those strategies? My follow-up to that question is, why might these strategies apply in the context of acting, or making theater, or staying in character with a scene partner during a scene on stage? There are technically no right or wrong answers. I'm just curious again to hear what strategies were successful and why you think these strategies might apply in the context of theater and drama and acting. The next game I'd like to play is a classic improv game called Who's Knocking? The goal of Who's Knocking is to knock on some kind of hard surface that you have close by, accessible to you, and to communicate a particular character in a particular situation by the way that you knock. So I'll say that again. The goal of this game is to communicate and show some kind of character in some sort of situation by the way that you knock. So I'm going to offer a quick demonstration. I'm going to knock in a certain way, and then afterwards, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below or in a separate Google Doc about what kind of character in what sort of situation I was pretending to be based on the way I knocked. Okay, what did you hear? What was the speed of my knock? What was the tone, the emotional quality? And based on all of those things you heard, what kind of character do you think I was based on the way I knocked? And what kind of situation do you think that this character was in? I want to do a second example. How was that knock different? What kind of character do you think that was who was knocking? And what kind of situation do you think they were in? Why was it different than the first one? So, those are just a couple quick demonstrations of the game Who's Knocking. What I would love for you to do now is to either play this with someone who lives in your household or to play it with a friend over FaceTime or Google Meet or Zoom. Each of you will need to find some kind of hard surface near you, whether that be a table, a bookcase, an actual door, just some kind of hard, preferably wooden, and you'll go one at a time and you'll switch off. So one of you will go off screen or out of view so that you can't be seen. and you'll knock in a particular way, as if you are a particular character in some kind of dramatic scenario. Then the person that you're playing with, based on what they heard with your knock, will try to guess who your character was and what kind of situation they were in. This is sort of the level 1 version of the game. Level 2 is where you actually start to improvise a scene based on the knock. So, player A, let's call them the knocker, goes out of view if you're playing in person, or off screen if you're playing virtually, and they knock as a particular kind of character in some sort of situation. Player B then, based on what they think is happening, given the way that they knocked and what they heard, opens the door and a scene begins. In essence, player A and player B improvise some kind of scene. So let me do a quick demonstration, and maybe that'll make it even clearer. So I'm going to pretend to be both player A and player B, and I'm going to hop back and forth, so just bear with me. There's only one of me. So, look who's come crawling back. There's so much I want to say, Mary. There's so much I didn't get the chance to say when you were kicking me out the other day. Stop right there, Roger. Stop it. I don't want to hear it. You walk right back out that door. That's just a quick example. So player A, Roger, knocked in some way, and then player B stepped in, and based on what they heard and what they think the character was and what they think the situation was and the relationship was, began improvising a scene, started speaking lines of text, of dialogue. After you've done sort of the first version of Who's Knocking, feel free to try the second version where player B opens the door and based on what they heard, initiates some kind of scene. For both of you, remember, again, the key to improvising scenes is to just say yes and. In essence, to accept whatever creative offers your partner gives you. So in that scene, when Mary opened the door and she made it clear that this was maybe like an ex of hers, Roger, the other character, the other actor, just went along with that and was like, yep, I'm the sad sack ex-boyfriend. Instead of being like, why are you talking to me like that? I don't know you. That would have been blocking, and the scene would have just like hit a dead wall. But instead, both actors, both characters in the scene, they say yes, and they keep building off of whatever each person sort of offers into the scene in terms of character and situation and relationship and all that good drama stuff. Have fun. If you feel comfortable with it, please feel free to videotape you playing this game with whoever you play it with, either in your household or virtually. And I can't wait to hear how it goes. The next activity that I'd like to try, I'm going to offer first a quick demonstration of, and then I would love for you to just sort of play around in your own time and your own space, and to take as much time as you like exploring this concept. So, this is something called clowning. When I say clowning, I don't necessarily mean like a frightening clown at a carnival. Clowning is actually about exaggerating particular parts of our body when we move through space. So an example of sort of a first level of clowning is just moving through space and leading with our nose. So I'm going to demonstrate, and you in your own space, feel free to play along and also experiment with moving around space, but leading with your nose, so that your nose is the first part of your body that sort of moves through the air as you walk through space. So just practice moving around. You can walk around whatever space you're in, but just make sure your nose is leading the way. You can look up, you can look down, you can pretend to see something, you can pretend to see someone. Just make sure your nose is leading. And as you do this along with me, and I know it may feel kind of silly and that's normal, but my question for you is, are there any kinds of people who in real life move through the world like this, leading with their nose? What kinds of people move through the world by leading with their nose? What are their personalities like? What are their attitudes towards other people generally like? People who lead with their noses. So again, clowning is just a way of exploring different kinds of physicality and physical exaggeration to start exploring different characters. Another version of clowning could be leading with our chest. Same thing. Feel free to move around space. Pretend to see somebody. Pretend to see something that is interesting. Look up. Look down. But keep leading with your chest. And again, I'll ask you the same set of questions. What kind of people lead with their chest? What kind of people? What are their personalities typically like? How do they view others? How do they treat others generally? What is their attitude towards others and life? Again, clowning is just a way sort of into exploring people and characters who move in different ways by exaggerating the ways in which we lead with certain parts of our bodies. Which brings me to the very last activity I'd like to describe and then have you try on your own, which is called Hitchhiker. The way Hitchhiker works, usually in the drama classroom, we play it 4 at a time. 3 people sit in chairs and pretend to be driving in a car. A 4th person, the hitchhiker, then sort of comes on stage, holds out their thumb, and asks for a ride. This person who comes on stage and joins the other 3 who are in the car has some kind of really exaggerated physicality or physical feature, some kind of really exaggerated behavior that they do, or some kind of really exaggerated personality trait. So for example, if I was playing Hitchhiker and I was the hitchhiker and I entered the car, perhaps my exaggerated trait could be something like this. Someone who's, for maybe because they just woke up, is having a really hard time seeing and having a really hard time rubbing the sleep out of their eyes. That's just a quick example. Then in the game, the other people in the car have to slowly take on and adopt whatever kind of exaggerated trait the hitchhiker came in with. So in that last example I just did, by the end of the activity, every person in the car would be like squinting and really struggling to see, as if they had just woken up and were having a really hard time seeing. Everyone else would take on that same kind of really exaggerated characteristic. It's normal for it to be silly. If you're playing this at home, you can play it literally with 4 people in 4 separate chairs, or you can get together with friends over Facebook Meet, FaceTime, Google Meet, or Zoom to play it with them. One of you can go off, come in as the hitchhiker, and again, the rest of you can slowly pick up on whatever super exaggerated trait the hitchhiker comes in with. If you feel comfortable with it, as always, feel free to take a video of you playing this game and send it to me on Google Classroom. Without further ado, we will move into the last portion of our pre-recorded lesson, which of course is Ritual Out. Ritual Out is only slightly different from Ritual In that we say our name, and then in one word, something will be taken away from this virtual lesson. So take a sec while I light the candle to think of what your word will be. I'll give you a second now to say it out loud, your name and your word. Then I'll say mine. Mr. Walker, exaggeration. And on the count of 3, we'll blow out the candle and bring all those things with us into the remainder of our days. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. I hope you had fun. If any of these activities got you excited and feeling alive and goofy and joyful, feel free to come to Drama Club. You are always so welcome. We meet every day of the week, Monday through Friday, from 4 to 5 p.m. Have a great day.